Endless Hustle, presented by Murph's Condiments. Murph's Condiments is a spicy food company based in Denver, Colorado that makes healthy hot and wing sauces using all natural and fresh ingredients. If you live outside the state of Colorado, you can buy their hot sauces online at www.murphscondiments.com. All right, we got a great day on the Endless Hustle as I'm joined by a guy that I grew up with. I feel like it's someone who was part of my life, especially during the formative years of the 90s, part of the great grunge era, the great alt rock era, and is still doing it all these years later. Ed Roland from Collective Soul. I'll never forget Shine, man. MTV was hot at that time. Music videos were happening, and Shine was one of the biggest. It's a pretty cool moment, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, once again, it was funny because the song became bigger than the band because it just happened so quickly, and it's so funny nowadays we tour and, you go, what band are you in? I go, Collective Soul. Yeah, I don't know those songs. And I go, da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Yeah, I love that song. So we've been catching up for the last 27 years over Shine.
Hey, it's not a bad way to do it, though. Listen, it's going to happen one way or the other. Let it happen, right?
That's correct. Shine got all the other songs too, so it's good. You got to have one to start somewhere.
By the way, you have like 8 other number ones. That's the other. I mean, there were some other huge songs, but Shine, bands will have that moment where that one song becomes iconic, and it's got to be a cool feeling. So when that happens, because I want to talk about your whole career and I want to talk about your new EP, but when that moment happens, what the fuck's going through your head when Shine? Because I know you had pre-recorded, it come out, then the album is re-released. What's going through your head as this thing explodes?
It took us about 7 years to even realize what went on during that whole 7 years to kind of ground ourselves, because we were, it happened overnight, and it was a batch of demos I made in a basement by myself. The original Shine is a drum machine, me on a drum machine, and there was no band. And I just was trying to get a publishing deal. So the first CD, the Hence Allegations, was just me trying to demo songs to get a publishing deal. And then all of a sudden I would just send it out to everybody, publishers, radio stations, and all of a sudden Shine started getting played. And I didn't have a band. So my brother was kind of playing in this frat band. So I'll never forget, I called him up and I said, hey, can you learn like 3 or 4 songs? We got asked to play. It was album 88 at the time, the Christmas party. And it was their #1 song. And we just didn't know what was going on. It just happened so fast. And then, 4 months later, we're at Woodstock. Then we're on tour with Aerosmith. And, we were making every day off because they didn't let us re-record the record because it was a hit. And they were like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, people at Atlantic. So I was really nervous that people were going to perceive us as that, because it really wasn't a band. It was just Ed. And so on our off days, which were few and far in between, we went in the studio because we played so much that, and I was writing all the time, that we kind of developed ourselves on the tour, that first tour. And days off, we went in and made the second record, and we got it out, I think, in like 9 or 10 months after the first one came out, just because we were nervous that people thought we'd, one hit wonder, and we had yet to even prove ourselves as a band.
So you essentially have this hit song, you have no band, you pretty much faked it till you made it. And then it's like shit explodes and you're like, let's go make we got to make another album. Let's capitalize.
Right. Well, not only that, but we just really felt like during the whole run that we were developing our own sound. It was helping me write, had good players. And the other thing, it was smart of us to do the second one real quick, but at the same time, that one became the biggest success we had. So once again, we were just slammed again. And then on the third one, we were in a lawsuit with our manager. I mean, it just never ended. And we were living off $150 a week, #1 on MTV. I had my dad, who was a minister, one of his people in his church had a little cabin on a cow farm. So he allowed me to live there. I'd literally get up, cut wood, put it on the stove. That was our stove and heating. Like, it was just an old school Southern cabin. So we made the third record in a cow farm, basically. It just never ended. And then the fourth one, we kind of spoiled ourselves. It took our time. It took about 5 years before we took a breath, to be honest with you.
You have this mega song and you're living off $150 a week.
Yeah.
That's crazy
Everybody,
to me.
everybody moved back in with their parents except me. I was newly married, so that kind of felt weird. But if this guy wouldn't have given me the cow farm for free, it'd have been more comfortable being at mom and dad's house at the time. But it also gave us freedom. We'd come over and we could record the record. And we really weren't supposed to be recording. So we called it, we were just demoing. But when it was done at the end, we felt we wanted people to hear it because it does sound like a demo, but it was what we were going through. And it was, 10 by 12 room. We just sat in there, played it till we felt it sounded right.
You come off obviously that first album. Is the weight on your shoulders at that point? Do you feel like, shit, well, now we made it, we've got to deliver more hits? Or are you in a relaxed mood? What's kind of the mindset coming out of that?
I was excited. That's all I ever wanted to do was write songs. There's that old saying, have forever to write your first record and then, no time to write the second one. Well, I looked at it, had my whole life to write the first record, and now I can pay rent if I'd have gotten paid. I can buy a car. So I felt no pressure at all. The only pressure came during the lawsuit. That was a difficult time. But that was no pressure on career or writing or creating. We've never had that problem. I mean, like I said, I think it's gotten easier. The songwriting to me has gotten better. You'd like to go back in time and have what you're doing now presented then, because after 27 years you should be getting better at it. And the band's gotten really, the lineup we have now is just amazing. We have so much fun. Back then, like you said earlier, we didn't know if we were having fun, if we were miserable. We were just going. We didn't know what town. This was before cell phones. We didn't have a tour schedule. No one knew. It was just putting it together as fast as they could because it happened so quickly overnight, kind of.
That was my childhood. I mean, I remember you had the Seattle explosion, obviously Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and you got that whole group. Then you got the Atlanta group. It's got you guys and REM, and there's this alt rock explosion and essentially a new genre of music that's a takeoff of what classic rock used to be. What was it actually like back then? What were the relationships with the bands? What was the culture? Put me in your shoes back then.
Well, I'll never forget that when we drove up to do Woodstock 94, Live had just come on the scene too. They were having the same success and they were younger, they were 19-year-old kids, but we all got out and exchanged pics. We still have each other's numbers. We call, check on each other, even after 27 years. And then I'll never forget, King's X was there, and we were fans at that point, if that makes sense. We couldn't even believe where we were. So we followed King's X around the whole backstage area to finally Doug turned around and said, "What do y'all want?" And we're like, "We're just fans. We just want to say hey," and you created relationships that are still there. I think we played with Blues Travelers that day, Sheryl Crow. So we all stay in touch. And it's always been that kind of, I can't think of any bands in that generation where there was anything other than just total respect. And, once we felt comfortable with ourselves, and not run around like little teenage boys saying hey to all these boys, the bands, everything calmed down. I look back on it, that part of it I can remember. It's just really everybody was so happy to be in the place they were.
When you kind of look around at that moment, obviously there's no social media, there's no pressure to be on Twitter and Instagram. There was a certain innocence to it at that point.
Right.
Were you guys able to have fun? I feel like today nobody can have fun because everybody's got their phone out. What was the actual fun like back then?
It was just basically the same as we do today, just hang out. That's the whole brotherhood of thing, because you have to be together. You're basically on a small submarine going down a highway, 250 days a year. You have to get along with each other. And that was the cool thing about other bands. They could relate to that also, and we could too. So when we got together, basically it's just silliness, go to a bar and shoot the shit. And, everybody have their good stories, I'll never forget, we were playing, where was it? What's the thing in Milwaukee? Summerfest. And Foo Fighters was playing on one side and we were on the other stage, and we were live on the radio. So they got done with their set because we wanted to say hey to Dave and he wanted to say hey. And we could see them driving from the stage, driving away. So I was live on the radio And I said, hey, Dave, sorry we couldn't see you. So that's running over 10 minutes. They backed the cars up, came up to the stage, sat side stage, and just sat there and watched the last 10 minutes of our show. And then we just hung out and talked, just what boys do. There was no craziness, we were pretty stable for the most part.
You literally communicated with the Foo Fighters over the radio, and then they came back. That's amazing.
I know, but that kind of shows you like the brotherhood of all those bands back then. It was just that way.
I want to talk to you about Dave because I'm an enormous Foo Fighters fan. I grew up loving Nirvana. They were just such groundbreaking music. And obviously when Kurt ended up killing himself, it was just a horrendous moment for everybody. When you kind of look at someone like Dave and obviously what he's been able to become at this point, he's this generation's Paul McCartney for the most part. He's right. He's a guy who's mastered every instrument, one of the best songwriters of all time. Young Dave, did you have any idea that Dave Grohl would become Dave Grohl? And could you see the formation at that time?
Yeah, we could as a band, because, I think this was after their second album came out, and we put it on and listen. And then when you meet him, you see the persona and the personality. He's the real deal. I mean, he's a real down-to-earth guy. Like you want to be his friend, he's just that, he has that aura and personality. And then the music, has the talk and says everything for you there.
Did you imagine you would have this longevity? Obviously, here you are, new EP, you guys are still touring. Did you imagine that this thing would be going this long? You'd still be together and be able to do this?
Yeah, we really did. Now, there was a part where we had to exchange a couple of players, but now that we've got it together, I mean, yeah, I don't see it ever ending. I really don't. And, we have 2 albums in the can right now. We're just waiting for the pandemic thing to end so we can kind of put it out at the right time to help with the tour, and the tour help with the record. So we have 2 in the can. I've written 2 other albums, so at least good 4 or 5 more years you got to put up the Collective Soul.
So I don't know if you've been hit up about this, but obviously Norm Macdonald just passed away, one of the great comedians.
Right.
And there's a very famous clip of him on a talk show just being Norm Macdonald. And the clip has gone viral again. Guess who the musical guest was that night?
It was Conan. Yeah, we put it up. We remember meeting him. And he didn't change once he met you. It was just funny, joke, sarcastic, but witty sarcasm. He was awesome. That was the only time we got to meet him or see him. But that was, one of those memorable nights too. We've had a lot of those. We've been very fortunate on things like that. Every time we've done those talk shows, you either get somebody you kind of respect or you don't. We've always just, from Chris Farley, David Spade, Betty White, I don't know. We've just been lucky with and every one of them come in the room and hang out, just talk. They come in our room, I guess we're inviting. We're Southern boys, open door policy.
How weird was that when it happened? Were people hitting you up out of the blue? Were people like, hey, you're on this clip, like you're in this insane moment?
I've had a couple, and then I think we sent it to our man. We put it up on our website, didn't we? Yeah. But you forget about those things. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, I remember it. And then at the end, when it said Collective Soul, I was like, of course I should remember it,
Having done all these incredible experiences, obviously you mentioned Woodstock, SNL. There's so much great shit that you've gotten to do. What have been some of the most memorable and some of the craziest stories that you just never imagined would take place in your life?
The most memorable one for me is, of course, meeting your idols. Like Elton John's my idol. I'm not afraid to say that. And I was saying that in 94 when we first came out. The grunge thing was huge. And, everybody was talking about, these underground bands that were influential to them. And they'd ask me, and I only had FM radio. So mine was Elton John, man. I was just like, and the weird thing, Elton called me while we were at Woodstock 94. He had some photographer come over, and, he lives in Atlanta. So we became friends. He gave me a grand piano. Gave me a grand piano. Like, it's crazy. Touring with Van Halen was awesome. Eddie gave me his guitar after the tour. Dolly Parton singing a song, winning a Grammy. I can just go on and on. It's sustaining for 27 years is awesome.
And hopefully it's more than $150 a week right now.
Oh, yeah, we're doing pretty good. Right, management?
I want to talk to you about Eddie Van Halen, because obviously one of the greatest guitarists, if not the greatest to have ever lived, but also a very polarizing figure off the stage. And you would hear different things from different people. What was Eddie actually like as a person?
So when we came on the tour, Eddie was sober, and I'll never forget where we were in the arena. It was rehearsal day, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I hear this guitar, and I smell the cigarette smoke, and he looks at me, he goes, "I'm Eddie Van Halen." I said, "Hey, I'm Ed." He goes, and this is how honest he was at the time. He goes, "I just want to tell you something. This first time I've played sober, I'm really, really nervous." And I said, "Well, this is the first time I've ever had to open for Van Halen. I'm really, really nervous myself, buddy." And we kind of hit it off there. First time I played golf, Eddie would come on our bus all the time. He and I just came pals. He took me to play golf for the first time and made great advice. He was like, get out, bike, learn to play golf, because he goes, every hotel room's the same. They got a shitter, a bed, a phone, and TV. He says, you'll usually end up at the bar and you'll stay there too long. And he said, get out and play golf. And that became literally what, really, I took that advice to heart, Doesn't mean I don't drink, but I don't stay at the bar all night now. I'm like, I got a golf game in the morning. I got to go, boys.
I'm a huge golf lover. Let's talk some golf. So talk to me about your love of golf. How did you become a fan? Are you a fan? And what does it look like now?
I was a fan of golf, but, we didn't have the money or resources or even a golf course near us where I grew up. But I can still remember we were just big fans at the time. My dad was a big fan of Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. So every Sunday at the Masters, my dad would wear a green jacket while he preached. I was like, that's so, and you get so busy in life, I didn't have any money to learn to play golf. And then when I started with Eddie, it just really clicked in, and getting to do things with Tiger and hang out with him, who to me, my generation probably still could be, you hate to say anything negative. It's not negative or compare, athletes, but for my generation, he's definitely by far there's Tiger and then there's everybody else to me. And now in today's world, I kind of like the Kafka, the DeChambeau little feud going on. That's kind of interesting. But there's so many young talent out there now. It's filled with so much. There's, it may be that way for a while. I don't know how you can get the difference that Tiger had with the field there for like 7 years. I don't know how one person can do that now, because there's so many great young players.
So what is an Ed Roland's golf bag?
What do you mean? Like the usual. Well, I've gotten a little older now. Now I've got a hybrid five iron and 4 iron. So I'm not out there to prove anything other than, try to win some bucks off somebody. So I get the tee box of my choosing and my clubs that I like to swing. So
are you a big fanatic with what you actually use? Are you incredibly particular?
I am now. I just got fitted for the first time 2 years ago, and that made a huge difference. I don't know why I never did that. I just didn't see the idea, the science behind it, but it made a big difference. And that's what I said. I got like a 5 hybrid, 4 hybrid iron. It just made a big difference for my game. And once again, I'm a bogey golfer. I took it real serious for a second, where, I got my handicap single digit, and then it's like everything else. I was like, wait a second, I'm getting too serious about this. I'd get up and run 6 miles, go play 18 holes of golf and do a show that night. And I was like, man, my body's giving out a little bit. Plus, I need to prioritize here. I've got to do the show. So the 6 miles are out the door. So I'm just going to play golf and enjoy it. So I'm a bogey golfer. I can just play and have fun. Is what I do.
You're obviously Tiger's generation, because Tiger and I are pretty much the same age. So when he gets to meet you, he's probably a fan of Collective Soul, and I'm guessing music of that era. What was his reaction when he got to meet you, and what was he like to hang out with?
He's really a nice guy. He's just, at that time, you could tell there were things going on. We didn't talk about anything like that. And yeah, he asked me I went out and played his tournament, musical guest, and he was he's an athlete that most athletes that I meet of that greatness, their focus is so hardcore on what they do, like the sport that they do. Baseball players that I met that are, Hall of Fame, if you get them off the field and give them 5 minutes to let them not know that they don't have to kill you or win, we're just going to hang. You find that, but they're just so focused, and I guess we all are. I mean, I get on stage, I don't have to be that focused, but he was intense. I will say that. But then you relax a little bit and it's just jokes flying all over the place. It's fun.
You have all these beautiful guitars behind you with a gajillion signatures. What are those?
I have no idea. This is my manager's office. I couldn't read this scribbling. I don't know why people sign their names where you can't see what their names are. By the way, I learned when I sign my name, you can understand it says Ed Roland. And that comes from Arnold Palmer. I don't know if you read his book. When he signed his name, his autograph, he said, you want people to know your name. So I always took that to heart. Another golf lesson. But how many guitars y'all got in here? A lot. Yeah,
like a lot, like 100.
I own about 300 guitars now. So, it's just, my wife's like, how many do you need? And I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. It's money well spent. You wouldn't want me to spend it on other places that some men do.
And I'm starting to think that's why they put you on a $150 a week budget before, because you were spending money in the wrong places.
Well, not really, because it's a tax write-off, and I do use them all. I mean, I get them, and I'm about to go pick up 5 today. What I've learned to do is have it shipped to my neighbor's house, because I have so many in the house. She's not going to go down there and count every one of them. So I sneakily, is that a good word? Is that a Southern hillbilly word? Sneakily. I just bring them in quiet in the night.
What happens when you start to make real money? Obviously, you're going through the early stages. You've got massive hits, but you're going through the battle with the manager and all that shit. But when you start actually seeing the real money, how do you start splurging? What are some of the fun things that you started doing?
You know what? When we have time off, I enjoy vacations with my family. We're very family oriented. We're very blessed that we like each other as a band, but also our families like each other, the wives, the kids. So we'll do vacations together as a band. And then that's it. Guitars, I do like shoes. I got a lot of shoes, but my feet haven't grown in 30 years. That's my excuse to my wife there. She's like, how many shoes do you need? I'm like, I don't know, but my feet haven't grown in 35, 40 years, I guess. They're going to accumulate. There's nothing. Yeah, I mean, we have a very modest home, and it's something that we enjoy life to what we enjoy, and then I want to make sure there's comfort for my children that they can, at some point, whatever career they want to choose, they have something to kind of bounce off of, monetarily.
At what point do your kids realize their dad's a famous rocker? Is that something they had to deal with in school? Is it something that they never cared about? Was it like, were they literally using your name at the doors at clubs? What was the dynamic like?
No, I was just dad. And the only time, like, his friends came over one day and one of them goes, "Oh, you're the rock star." And I said, "No, I'm Lennon's father," and they get, and that's all it takes. It's the only time. Like, it's just never been, I'm just dad. They don't come to shows. They'll come just to hang out on the bus because they like the bus and they like the lifestyle of the bus. You travel, you got all the food and sodas you want. So other than that, they could care less.
One of my favorite movies is Almost Famous, and I'm sure you've seen it. Mm-hmm. And it's about obviously the fictional band Stillwater and the ups and the downs. But there's an amazing moment. It's become an iconic moment where they're on the bus, and you had brought up Elton John, and Tiny Dancer comes on, right. And you can just see that unified moment where there's this just moment of incredible love and respect, and just like, holy shit, we're here together. Right. What was that moment for you in Collective Soul, that Tiny Dancer moment?
We have it every night after a show. Somebody is nominated to DJ, and we sit there after a show. That's our cool downs. We sit there and we sing every night. I mean, it's just, if we're just a different breed of band. I mean, my brother's in it, of course, but we truly love each other and enjoy hanging out. Like even if we're off for a week or two, like we talk every other day. Everybody talks to somebody, or we're group texting jokes and all that fun stuff. We just enjoy each other's company. We really do.
When you kind of look at yourself today as a musician, because you had mentioned you wish you could go back in time and kind of know what you know now, how do you evolve as a musician, as a songwriter, as a singer? What is that evolution like for an artist?
I think for me, I've gotten, I don't want to say worse as a musician. I used to be a really, really good guitarist. But when you surround yourself and with, like, to me, I've got the best, I'm part of the best band, rock band still. And I think it's better. You delegate. You know, there's no reason for me to even attempt to play lead guitar like Jesse, or rhythm like Dean, or of course I can't play drums or bass like Will, but my job is to write the songs, you know, and then we come together and I'll present them. They'll either go yay, nay, or that's interesting. And then Johnny sets his drums up, we horseshoe around, and we play together live as a band as we record. And that's how we learn. And it's so much fun. We'll do 5 takes and that's it. To me, you just get the vibe then. And that, let it be.
Is it weird to be on stage and see these kids who were once kids, who have now grown up with you, who are probably in the crowd now, but they're like middle age, they're our age, they're like 40s, 50s, 60s. Is it strange to kind of look out and see these people that have grown up with you now?
No, I'm just glad they're there, you know, and we've gotten to a generation now where they're bringing their children, which is fun, you know, because you know, you grow up listening to your parents' music, and if you appreciate it, it's just fun to see the younger generation, you know, our generation hold up their kids. You go over there and you fist pump them and just let them know you appreciate them all being there and sharing it to another generation.
This was awesome. One last question for you. So one of the main reasons that I started the show, Ed, was to talk to successful people about the mentality and the habits that help them form their success. And it's a common mission that we share with our show's presenting sponsor, Unilog, whose mission is to elevate others. What do you incorporate in your life? What habits that allow you to continue to elevate?
I think I go back to my parents, who were the best parents in the world. Like they taught me patience, and I try to live like they lived. You know, it was family first and no judgment. Do the best you can at what you want to do. Do what you want to do and do the best you can. To me, I meditate, which helps a lot. And the days I skip, my wife knows. She's like, you need to go meditate. So I think it's trying to just bring joy to, I don't care what job you have, bring joy to yourself first. And then that way it'll be shared when you go outside the office or in the office or on the stage or off the stage.
Awesome. This was a blast. Congrats on the new EP. Congrats on the tour. And sounds like we'll be talking more because you got more albums on the way very soon.
I told you at least another, we'll make it 7 years.
Is there an expiration date, or you're going till the day you drop?
This is funny because I had lunch with Elton's keyboardist, Kim, and my wife was with me, and she asked him, like, are you ever going to retire? He goes, I have. He said, people retire, they travel, they get to meet interesting people, they do what they love to do. He goes, I'm never going to retire. So I remember looking at her going, see, I'm retired.
I love it. Ed, congratulations. Awesome stuff, man. Thanks for a fun interview.
Thank you so much, Arthur.
Take care, man. Good luck.